Today, I had the pleasure to sit down with two very good friends of mine who, for the purposes of this program, will be referred to as Tim and Bernie, about their experiences as transgender men working in Texas. The following program deals in discussions of workplace discrimination, violence against trans people, and generalized transphobia. Viewer discretion is advised. This is Working from the Closet.
I was working with one of my, AFAP, whatever, coworkers, but me and her were working, and there was this guy that was, I don't know what he was doing. He was helping with something, and he was like, oh, women in STEM. And I was like, yeah, this is a woman in STEM. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I look like Kaveh from Genshin Impact. Like, you think that's a woman in STEM? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just like small things like that, Like, that's kind of silly, but it still pisses me off. I don't know how else to defend myself from these dudes other than to freak them out. Oh, you're trans? I'm like, oh, you're a cis man?
I was constantly used as almost this example. We would put up different decorations and things each month for whatever holiday is in that month. And in the month of June of Pride Month, I was, let's say, made the spokesperson. I can say that. That's the nicest way I can say that. I would go to these meetings every month. In our meeting for June, throughout the entire meeting, that boss in that moment, every single time she would say the words Pride Month, she would openly gesture to me. She repeatedly made eye contact with me every time she said it, as like, see, I'm acknowledging you. She did things like that frequently.
The experiences described by Bernie and Tim are not isolated to just them. To quote Lambda Legal, an American civil rights organization that focuses on the LGBT community, in a 2011 transgender survey, 90% of respondents reported workplace mistreatment or discrimination, and 26% said they lost work because of their gender identity or expression. Being fired is especially harmful for someone already struggling with workplace tensions or outright abuse. Transgender survey respondents who had lost a job were 4 times more likely to be homeless as those who didn't lose a job, 70% more likely to have drinking or drug problems, and 50% more likely to be incarcerated.
There were people in the department that I didn't know, and my trainer was telling me, like, a bunch of people think that you're, like, really attractive, right? And he was saying it as a warning. He wasn't saying that in a weird way and being creepy to me. He was just saying that as a warning because he knew that I was trans because I confided in him. And he was like warning me because there were people that were like, oh, and I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, that's so weird. I'm not gonna be, especially in the workplace, I'm not going to be some man's crisis, okay, if you're attracted to me. I'm not going to be somebody's awakening. Figure that shit out on your own. This is a job. I'm here to work. Cishet men are weird. You see one attractive trans man and it makes your entire world, like, explode. People have been like, damn, he kind of fine. And I'm like, this is a work setting. Leave me alone. I've never had anybody, like, hit on me at work. Thank God. I don't want that. That's why I, like, bring up, like, my partner a lot, I'm like, I have a partner and I'm making it clear that we have been together for a long time and I love him. Don't say anything, because I've definitely had inklings where I've been like, you're kind of looking at me weird and I don't like that.
I used to volunteer a lot. I would volunteer at carnivals, fall festivals, like babysitting and things like that. I've taken care of kids for a very long time. I like to work with children and not in a like, oh, do you think you might be trans? No, it's not about that. I want to take care of kids because so many of them don't get taken care of properly. But there have been times where I am at an event or interviewing for a job that has to do with taking care of children, and it's considered a bad idea for me to be there, be that it's bad press, the parents are going to be concerned, it's the fear-mongering that a lot of people in power and politicians and things like that do, of just like, oh, you're queer, so you're obviously a predator.
I really hope I don't have to explain why that's a load of bullshit, but unfortunately, among conservative circles, there's this idea of a transgender plague. So, for example, even in Texas, a lot of legislation has been coming out to try and combat this plague. For example, House Bill 1399, according to Land Illegal, would ban doctors from providing best practice and evidence-based medical care for transgender young people. This bill is a part of an onslaught of anti-transgender legislation across the country and here in Texas. Normally, I would be jumping in right now to offer some statistics about what is about to be discussed, but I felt to avoid needless distress, I would instead come in here to say if you want to help in combating violence against trans people, I recommend going to vawnet.org, that is VAWNET.org. They have a long list of organizations such as Lambda Legal, the Black Trans Advocacy, and Forge that are helping combat this violence. Now, I would just like to reiterate a trigger warning because we're about to discuss violence against trans people. Please excuse yourself if you need to. Thank you.
I am genuinely scared sometimes going into work because I go into work super early. I have to watch myself in the parking lot. I don't want anybody pulling up. I'm not about that, you know? I have pepper spray. That can only do so much. I do have, I got that husky box cutter in my bag, but that's not going to do anything at the end of the day if I can't get to it. So it's like, I don't ever want to be put in the scenario where it's my life or someone else's, especially because of who I am. It's like, I don't want that to ever be a thing. But the possibility of it being a thing is there. And it's decently, there is a decent sized possibility. And I hate that.
I have a decently wide scope of the types of jobs that I'm looking for or willing to work. But being a queer person in a state like Texas is a struggle, I suppose, for lack of a better term. It's like you see a job listing, you want to apply for it, but before you do, you have to go and Google and do research of, is this a safe place to work? And a lot of the times it's not, because you definitely know that there are places that are safer than others, like places like Fort Worth and Austin, where you can be openly queer and walk down the street and not worry as much about someone randomly walking up to shoot you because they don't think that you should exist. Whereas there are other places where I can't wear a colorful bracelet because I'm worried someone will approach me and either yell at me or become physically violent.
Feeling like I need to put myself through training because I am scared for my safety because I'm trans. Like, I'm sorry, pause, that's ridiculous. That I am afraid to go outside because of other people that I don't know, being like, I'm gonna kill you. What is wrong with you?
A lot of it does come down to things like religion. Saying like, oh, well, God doesn't agree with queer people. It's like, okay, but what happened to love thy neighbor? What happened to treat others how you want to be treated? I don't think anyone wants violence against them. How can you justify seeing a human being as so much less than?